don't most experts suggest that Iran does, in fact, have the capability if they wanted to move in the direction of weaponization? So haven't they almost crossed one of those deadlines? Is there anything new today regarding that deadline?
The way the Israelis see it is there is a window of opportunity during which they have the ability militarily to destroy a significant portion of the weapons of the nuclear weapons capability by hitting where they're being manufactured, where the centrifuges are. At a certain point, that window will close, and the Israelis will not have the military means to do it. The U.S. may. As this deadline approaches, as the Israelis perceive the deadline approaching, this becomes more and more urgent, more and more of a problem. They do not want to see the window close and then say, it looks like Iran, which threatens us with genocide, the world's leading sponsor of terrorism against Israel, against America, against others, now will have nuclear weapons, and there's nothing we, the Israelis, can do about that. We have to hope that the Americans will do something about that. That's what we have. It's not a cycle. It's the approach of deadline. Now, the Israelis have successfully pushed back that deadline several times. Stuxnet, that virus, didn't solve the problem, but it probably put them back a year. Certain other things that they've done in a covert and clandestine manner have probably set back the timetable for Iran. The Israelis would like to set it back again in another way, and they're looking at all of those capabilities as well. Can they do it? The last thing the Israelis want to do, the last thing, is send bombers over there to use conventional military means to try to set back the Iranians. That's the last thing they want to do.
So, Cliff, this is Amy Holmes here. Following up on your point, over at commentary.org, I was reading analysis that some folks think that the Israelis are bluffing, that when they turn up the heat on this rhetoric, what they're really trying to do is turn up the heat on the White House. Do you think that analysis is correct or worthy?
It's not incorrect, but doesn't have it exactly right. There's two things that you have to recognize here. One is the Israelis feel very strongly that this is not, the Iranian problem is not their problem, and they shouldn't be leading on it. They shouldn't be most responsible. Yes, they're most endangered, but the idea that the United States and Europe would allow the leading sponsor of terrorism in the world, a regime that has said a world without America is attainable, to allow them to get nuclear weapons after we've said we wouldn't, it should be an American responsibility. They'll help with it. They don't want to take the lead on it. America and Europe shouldn't say it's not our problem. It will turn out there to be their problem. Kind of like, you know, was the Nazi problem Czechoslovakia's problem? Was it Poland's problem? Or was it the world's problem? They see it that way. There is also this. For diplomacy to work, it must have behind it the credible threat of the use of force. If the Iranians believe that force may be coming, they may be willing to find a diplomatic solution. If they think it's all a bluff, they'll say, we don't need to worry about it. Let them talk, go to the negotiations, play rope-a-dope. They're not going to do anything at the end of the day. They will say what Ayatollah Khomeini, the leader of the revolution, said back in after 1979, after we did nothing for a very long time about the hostage-taking. What he said was, the Americans can't do a damn thing.
Cliff,
the rulers think nobody. Let me say, the rulers of Iran think nobody will do a damn thing. They will proceed and fulfill their ambitions.
But is that, Cliff? And I hear this a lot. I also hear about the breakout and how it's coming. And as Will pointed out, this has been said a lot. It reminds me of people who are analyzing the Iraq War used to say the next 6 months will be critical. And I worry that with Israel right now, given the public attention on this matter, they start to get to this point where they say, look, we've heard this, we've heard this. What does U.S. backing actually mean? Is there really a feeling in Israel? And also, what does the credible threat of force mean? If everyone's saying that force is on the table and that at some point a strike could be coming, we could have aerial strikes on Iranian facilities, either Israeli or American, how could they make that more credible? And also, what would a U.S. backing for this effort actually entail if it's not a U.S. effort in and of itself?
What the Israelis would like to see and would like to have is an agreement with America that, as America has said, as Israel has said, this regime in Iran cannot have nuclear weapons, and agree on a plan to stop this regime from getting nuclear weapons and to do what's necessary. Very important if the Israelis do strike, what happens the next day, the next week, the next month, the next year even, because after such a strike we don't know exactly what Iran will do, but again, you don't want them rebuilding their facilities immediately. You want to keep the pressure on until they decide this is not something we can do. It's simply too high a price. They want to do whatever they do with the blessing of the U.S. and the support of the U.S., and better still, they'd like the U.S. to do it, and they would say to the U.S., tell us how we can help you prevent Iran from becoming a colossus of the Middle East and challenging American power and threatening Israel with annihilation, with genocide.
But